Welcome to the Mother-Daughter-ish podcast. It's your mama's favorite podcast.
And the podcast your daughter always wanted.
This is Miss Dawn.
And Aungelique.
From the 713. Houston, y'all. Get connected and stay connected weekly as new shows debut on Sunday, Wednesday, and please check out our Saturday Out and About showcases.
Enjoy the show. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and tell every woman on the planet that you know about our show.
Here's our show for today. Hey, it's Miss Dawn. You wondering how you can support our show, Mother-Daughter-ish? We have Cash App, we have PayPal, and we do have Vimeo. Support our show so that we can reach out to more women. Our goal is to reach and build a community of 1 million women. Why don't you come on and help us do that? Happy Saturday, mothers and daughters. And today I just wanted to take a little break from our nutrition and health talks and basically our health discussions for the month series and talk a little bit about Louisiana. Now, about a week ago we talked about Texas. The week before that it was a couple of other, we talked about Coppell, Texas Park. Yesterday we talked about last week we talked about the history of Texas, but today I want to migrate on down to Louisiana, right from where I sit right now in Katy, Texas. Baton Rouge, Louisiana is only about 4 hours, and New Orleans is a total of about 6.5, depending on how fast or slow you're going. But the reason I have such a heartbeat and such a passion for Louisiana is because my mother is from there, and we traveled there so much as a kid that I can remember saying, one day I want to, have a business there or work with individuals there. The other reason I have such a passion for Louisiana is the culture. And when I say the culture, I'm talking about the Creole-ness of it all, the French of it all, the other melting pot like Texas of it all, the cuisines of it all, the beignets of it all, the crawdads of it all, the boudin of it all. I am such an avid lover of Louisiana food that I have been known to drive to Louisiana, certain area, and get my boudin, my crackling, whatever I want, and just come back home. Yeah, I'll be that girl that's like, I want to eat some pizza, so I'll go to Italy. That type of weird thing, just simply because, we like what we like. But the other thing that I really like, and I can't wait to talk a little bit more about some of the things I've seen and done and been able to get involved with in Louisiana, like out in the different, I would call it swamp-looking areas. Of course, I'm from Texas, so I'm used to swamp-looking areas. I'm used to, certain things. But much like Florida, Louisiana has a propensity to have alligators, and here's how I can prove it. One time we were on Canal Street and we went into a restaurant and they had alligator jambalaya. My son had it. We all tasted it because we were just like, oh my gosh, this is weird. Didn't taste bad. One of those other sayings, tastes like chicken. I don't know if I could say it did or it didn't, but there was a twang that I was just kind of like, But one of the things that I wanted to share is that New Orleans was named after King Louis. So you get the Louisiana, Louisiana. His name was King Louis, Louis. And he was King Louis the 14th. And then also New Orleans, I was excited to hear this, so I'm going to have to look up when the next jazz festival is, because New Orleans is known as the jazz capital, not of the state, but of the world. New Orleans, Louisiana is the jazz capital of the world. So I've got to look up and see when their next jazz festival is. A matter of fact, while I'm saying that, I always keep notes right here So I'm going to write down NOLA Next Jazz Festival. And, once I type that in, all kinds of things will pop up. But I'd like to add that to my bucket list, simply because they are the capital of the world on it. If you think about it, every state has something that is related to them being the only one, them being the first one, them being known for, and all of that. Like I said, Louisiana is known for its melting pot. It's known for its Creole and French languages. It's known for its food, whether it's Southern food or French cuisine. They're known for that. They're known for their cakes, and they're known for their beignets and things like that. So, also, Louisiana is famous for its Cajun and Creole food. So, in the end, we're going to talk a lot about the different types of food, just in case you never had any. You might want to add it to your list. All right, I love to do my Did You Know. So, in my Did You Know, it'll always give you the know part. So that way, if something strikes you and you're like, oh, I didn't know that. Or if you say like, oh, I knew that, but I didn't know to that degree. Let us know in the comments if there was anything that I'm mentioning that you did not know, but now you know because I did my Did You Know. Did you know that Louisiana is the crawdad capital? They are the crawfish, I like to call them crawdads. They are the crawfish festival. There's even a thing in Louisiana about the proper po' boy. If you look on the screen right there, that's what they call a proper po' boy. You got your lettuce, you got your tomatoes, you got whatever sauce they dipped all that in, your onions, you got your shrimp laid a certain kind of way on a certain kind of bread. So there in Louisiana is even a proper way to make a po' boy. But they are the capital as far as crawfish is concerned. Hey, you know this. Louisiana, and you'll see some pictures here later, but Louisiana is also home of the Mardi Gras. Last time I went to Mardi Gras was in 2020, right before COVID hit. It was kind of like a whirlwind because December I was in Park City snowmobiling. January we were gearing up for Mardi Gras. In February, the end of the month, we were in New Orleans for the weekend or 4 days. Then March came around and COVID was like, park it. So my last hurrah before the first 6 months of COVID was at the Mardi Gras. And then when they said, okay, we're going to lift it a little bit by that August, we were in Mexico. But 2020 is the last time I went to Mardi Gras. I don't like the way they did it in 2022. It was a lot of confusion. First, they said they was just going to basically call it in other words, just do it on the TV. And then there were people who said they actually went to some of the activities. I like the activities. I like the parades. I like that's the king cake. I like the activities. I like the parades are the most exciting thing, the Zulu Nation and all of that type of thing. So I would have still went for that because, when I'm in public, I'm still wearing my mask when I'm around a lot of people, or I'm in a confined spot like a grocery store or some kind of retail store or something. I have my mask on. Louisiana was not even carved out into 1812 when whoever they are, when they were carving out the different states and everything, they carved out Louisiana in 1812. So if I think back to 1812, because I've done a lot of research on my great-great-great-grandparents and all the way down to my dad, and we did have some Fobs and the Caddo tribe, Caddo Indian tribe, who went from what was Mexico and then turned into Texas and went over to Louisiana. So most of them went to East Texas, but then a lot of them migrated down with the tribe over to Louisiana. So I was excited to hear that. The original name, when they carved it out in 1812, was La Louisiane. So La and then Louisine, La Louisiane. So I guess they were trying to keep intact with King Louis. So they called it La Louisiane. And then over time, just like every other name on the books changes over. Just like my original name is um, De Forbes, DE, and then Forbyes. Then it went to several other versions from, that to FOBS to FOBBS. So I think in some of the translation, things get changed so that it can separate who's who. It's kind of like you want to separate who's in what tribe and who's not in those particular type of tribes. But it was originally called La Louisiane, Louisiane, Louisiane instead of Louisiana. And I can bet you after the Creoles started talking, they probably called it that. Because I hear a lot of states and cities called different things depending on who I'm listening to, too. And I'm like, oh, that's how they say that? It's just a different language. Louisiana is popular for a lot of its languages. The top three very prevalent languages in Louisiana, you will not be shocked. Don't be shocked. You will not be. The top three languages, now they had a lot of them, like Hungarian and all kinds, but the top three are French, French Creole, and then Spanish. So French Creole, and Spanish are like the top ones. But again, they also have Hungarian, a lot of different languages, and it makes so much freaking sense because when I did my mom's genealogy, it traced her family all the way back to Germany, and so all of that makes total sense. For those of you who care, the original Popeyes was born there in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I don't care what anybody tells you. If you go to New Orleans, make sure you get some boudin, make sure you get some gumbo, and if you don't do nothing else, make sure you try a Popeyes. The biscuits are fluffier, the chicken is fried better, everything is fresher, the beans are more bomb than they are here. It is just the way it is. I tried this several times, and I'm trying to tell you, every single time Popeyes tastes just a little different over there. And I think it's because they got that soft water over there. I don't know, but it just tastes different. But anyway, the original Popeyes was born in Louisiana. Right now on the screen, you see these delicious beignets. We like to go to Cafe Du Monde, not the one in the mall, but the one that's freestanding in the little neighborhood area. We like to go to that one. You can go through the drive-through and you can get like 3 beignets for like, a few dollars or whatever. But we like to go there either through the drive-through or sit on the inside and just get them fresh, eat them hot, eat them fresh. They're so delicious. If you have never had a beignet, I will describe it to you the best I can. It's like having a warm, fluffy donut with powdered sugar on it. Now, at Cafe Du Monde, let me tell you what they do. They cook the beignets, fry them. Of course, it's fried. And then they put them in a bag. And then in the bag, they throw the powdered sugar in there and then shake it up. Also, if any of your beignet does not get enough sugar on it, you have enough in the bottom of the bag to just kind of dip it. I'm so glad I don't live in Louisiana because I know this would be my once a week sin. So I'm glad I only get it a couple times a year, maybe once. I confess I've never driven to Louisiana just to have this. But if I'm anywhere near it and I need to drive through, I'm going. Like this last trip I just did in July, I came back down I-10 West. And because I stayed in my hotel in Louisiana, in New Orleans, I came through. By the time I got to Baton Rouge, I said, okay, I got to stop in Scott, Louisiana. And I have got to get my boudin balls, my boudin egg rolls. I had to get my little case of gumbo that I like to get from them. I had to get my crackling. And then there were some cookies that I liked there. I told y'all on the last video that I like the cookies. That was us in the parking garage getting ready to go to the Mardi Gras. Like I told you, New Orleans is the home of the Mardi Gras. Louisiana, when I was a kid, was the first place I had ever seen drive-through daiquiri shops. We now have them here in Houston, which was so funny because during the pandemic, they said only essential businesses open only, and they were open every day because I guess they were essential to get people their liquor. I don't understand. So I just would be in shock every time I would pass by and see the line with like 20 people in it. It was crazy to me. Um, Louisiana, it says, was first inhabited by Indians. More specifically, there were 5 or 6 different tribes, but I saw that my grandparents' family of Indians was in Louisiana, which are the Paiton Indians. Check us out with our beads, and we didn't have to do nothing strange to get those beads, but just when the Zulu tribe and all the different people come through, you just grab up and you get those beads. So, but anyway, um, the Paiton Indians were there, so I thought that was great. Now, in 1762, Spain owned Louisiana first. So now you see where the Spanish language comes in. The Spanish, the French, all of those languages come in. So in 1762, the Spanish owned it, but in 1812, it was carved out and named La Louisiane. So by 2050, it says, though, that most likely this is the same threat that they give to Miami and Los Angeles. So you got your East Coast, West Coast, down south. That by 2050, most likely New Orleans is going to be underwater because in the last few years, couple I should say, they've lost over 2,000 and something areas of land that's now used to be where you could possibly build a home or something on. It's now water. That makes me really sad because if Louisiana goes underwater, I just don't understand. And they already don't bury their dead under the ground, 6 feet under. They build them on top where you can see the actual casket when you pass by funeral homes. But by 2050, we're talking, in a decade or so. They're saying that most likely it'll be underwater. Now, these studies are not like, yeah, it's going to be underwater because they've been threatening this for Miami and California forever. And, by 2050, we'll just have to see. I always say when we hear these predictions, well, we'll just see. Not like we can do anything about it anyway, so we'll just see. Their signature color in Louisiana is purple. If you've ever gone to Louisiana and you have stopped by a Walmart, you will see that LSU is all over every Walmart with their purple and their different colors. But purple is the signature color for Louisiana. And if you know anything about purple, it's a color of mystery and a color of, all kinds of magical things. And Louisiana is definitely known for certain types of voodoo. And so, if you know anything about voodoo, then you know that it's not unlikely for that to have been the color. The next thing is that the biggest issue plaguing Louisiana right now is education. The education system is poor, it's lackluster, it's behind time, it's stuck in a time warp. I don't know what they're doing about it. I can tell you right now, so is their business mentality. When I went there to open up my office in 2014 or 15, it was a lot of backwards things going on. Even the group of people that worked for a particular government entity said to us, well, we don't want to help you out too much because you might come here and steal all of our steal all of our business, and then we won't have jobs. Now, what I went there to do literally didn't have anything to do with them losing their job. Literally had nothing to do with competition. Literally had nothing to do with that lackluster, butt backwards, because I'm not going to say the other word, mentality. But it gave me a little bit of insight on what all of my clients there were telling me. Like, we're so glad that you're sharing this information because they would never share this information with us. The other thing I wanted to share with you about Mardi Gras, and I'll get back to the lacklusterness, but the other thing I wanted to share with you about Mardi Gras is that when it's Mardi Gras week, school is closed. There's no school, there's no work, everything is closed. The bank, everything is, it's a actual holiday in Louisiana. Other schools in other states, yeah, y'all going to school. But if you're in Louisiana, the daycares are closed, the schools are closed. It's a done deal. But I know for a fact that education is an issue in Louisiana because not just if you look at the test scores, but if you just look at the mentality of people. If you look at the mentality of people, certain people from Louisiana, it tells the story of any question that you would ever have. Just from me dealing with people there, just from me having to educate people there, just from me teaching, just from me, making people aware of what their options are and empowering them to want better, do better, have better, they still couldn't see over but nobody in my family ain't doing this, or nobody in my family doesn't have this, or nobody in my family is earning that kind of money. Like, I'm just going to make just enough to pay my bills and get along and keep my mouth closed. It's that type of mentality, and that really, really, really annoyed me. But I was there until 2019, and then I was just like, I can't. Because one thing about me is that I'm allergic to negativity. And so instead of creating a scenario with you, I'm going to just let you know it's not the time, but it's not the day. And I'm going to get off the phone with you. And then I'm going to mull it over for about a good old hard 15 minutes and say everything I need to say just to get it out, but not to you so I don't hurt your feelings. Because it's the ones that always want to play the victim, or always the ones that want to say negative things but can't receive it back. Kills me, kills me, kills me. And so I was working with several people in Louisiana who they just did not understand what their power was. They didn't understand that owning a business already gave them a leg up to freedom and sovereignty and all of that. They just didn't understand because they still felt like somebody was on their back. But Louisiana proved to so many daycare businesses there that, hey, you're either going to play our game or we don't really care about you, because a lot of my clients lost their daycare centers after Louisiana decided to put these different grades of daycares in. Just like when you go to a New York restaurant and they have grade A, B, C, whatever on the door, and you know whether to eat there or not, it means they have a good grade or a bad grade. They started doing this with the daycare centers there. And one thing about the daycare centers, like one of my clients, she had owned a child care center for about 38 years. She and her daughter were working together. They had a full house of, 100 and something kids. But because she could not, in her 60s, go back to school and learn what they wanted her to learn, she knew her job. She just gave the business up. And I don't know what she's currently doing, but that was very sad. But the final thing that I wanted to tell you before I get into my next topic is that the oldest city in Louisiana, and I'm going to try to say this right, Natchitoches. So, I used to say Nacogdoches because that's the way everybody I knew said it, but it's Natchitoches. So, I'll say it my old way just for those of you who that's the way you say it too, but Nacogdoches is the oldest city in Louisiana. I've been to many, many different parts of Louisiana. Always try to find the good food spots, and I've gotten so lucky. Right there on the screen, that's a great way to have a backyard Creole get together where you have your corn, your potatoes, your crawfish, you cook them, you throw some newspaper down, and you just get down, because basically by the time you get into that one little crawdad and get that little small shrimp, I mean, you're going to be hungry for a long time. And it being on the paper is literally no big deal because the corn is not touching the paper pretty much. It's on top of the crawfish. So by the time you get inside the crawfish, you won't have any ink, so don't go there. But Louisiana, I've been to many, many areas of Louisiana. I've been to some parts that I don't even remember the names. They were so, back in the woods. But when I leave my house from I-10 and I go I-10 east and I get to Lafayette, and then I get to Baton Rouge, and then I get to New Orleans, and then I get outside of New Orleans. I mean, there's so many areas. And one thing I learned when I was working and had my office in Louisiana is that there are just so many things to discover in Louisiana. There's so many little areas to discover. There's so many little fun things. Next month when I'm talking about my travel tips and excitement and warnings and all of that. And you'll see, I've done some fun things just in Louisiana. I mean, I've done some fun things in Texas too and other countries, but I've done some really fun things in Louisiana. And getting into the culture, like when I was in my 20s, we used to always go to the Crawfish Festival. It would always be in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana. I mean, me and my cousin and friends, we just fit in like, look, we walked in there like we owned the place. We walked in there like we knew what we were doing. We walked in there like we was the best Zydeco dancers you ever think. That's another thing about Louisiana is it has some very unique dance team there. For example, Zydeco is a, I would call back in the woods type of French dance, Creole dance that's I think is made up that you just can really enjoy yourself. If you've ever been to a Zydeco festival, you will completely understand. I know out in Fort Bend County at the fairgrounds, they they do a Zydeco festival every year. I just added that to my bucket list too. I'm gonna go to the next one because I've been to small ones. Like there's a place here called Jax JAX over off of Washington Avenue area in the Heights area, and they used to have all of the famous Zydeco bands that were local, you know, here in Houston that were from Louisiana that would come and perform out on the patio and things like that. And we used to have a really good time with that. But I will tell you, there's some of the most unique things. And if you know of any musicians or anything that are from Louisiana, you know, they have a different flavor for everything they do. I think Beyonce purchased a home over in Louisiana and maybe goes there to stay a little bit because I think her grandma's last name was Beyonce and that was French Creole, and so I think her mother has roots in Louisiana as well. If you know Lil Boosie the rapper, he's from Louisiana. I could just go down the list and list and list and list of people. I've spent, you know, time down in Plaisance in Opelousas, Louisiana. That's way back in the swamps. I also had a client, two clients in Opelousas that were way back down in the swamps, and they owned child care centers and were doing really well doing their thing. You know, when the kids were smaller, and we would go to, let's just say, Destin, Florida. We love Destin. And we would go to Destin, Florida. We'd always stop over either in New Iberia or one of those areas of Louisiana. When I was a kid, I was always scared to go to New Iberia because they used to say that was the voodoo capital. And I'm saying to myself, all of Louisiana should be considered like Haiti, the voodoo capitals of the world, because it's, I'm not saying it's true, I'm saying it's forever been known that people from Louisiana do practice voodoo. Now, whether you practice it or not, that's your business. No judgment here at all, because we have to go with whatever our culture has brought us. Like I remember last year, me and Angie did a show, and we were talking about arranged marriages. And I said to her, I remember it very distinctively, I said to her, if I was in a culture that I had to have an arranged marriage, I would just have an arranged marriage because that is my culture. Like, we have to participate in certain things. For example, when kings and queens and things like that have arranged marriages, literally those marriages can save a whole nation. Sometimes those deals are brokered because money needs to be transferred between the two families. And if that means that you purchase my daughter for two goats, and this is our culture, then you get the goats. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just what it is. You get the goats. I mean, the best goats we got, you're going to get it. Because I'm giving you the best thing I have, which would be my daughter, if that's who you wanted. And a lot of these cultures, they raise their children to specifically be married. Like Diana was raised and groomed and specifically to marry Prince Charles. No, it didn't work out, but she gave it a go. That's what I call it. We give it a go. You know, we all have done things that we just kind of like gave it a go. Okay? So, back to something I want to talk about on these beignets. when you get your beignet, I'm pretty sure you're going to end up in Louisiana traveling and just exploring a little bit. When you get your beignets, make sure you either get some hot coffee or some hot tea. I don't drink coffee, so having warm tea is just, it's a delight. Like, when I look at my favorite donut place, if I was going to eat a donut, I have a favorite, but I have a favorite, but I have one that's even a bigger sin than that one. Like, for the sake of Texas, I like Shipley's. Homegrown, want to be loyal, but it's not always what my mouth wants. So I go over and I look at Krispy Kreme. I don't eat this stuff maybe but once a year, but I'm just saying when I do. I like Krispy Kreme because it's flatter. If they would just put a little less, um, what is that, cake icing. If they put just a little bit less icing, I would be a happy camper. But it is what it is. So when you get your beignets, get you something warm to drink, like either some hot lemon water, some tea, or some coffee. Now let's talk about this, the business of boudin. I have had a lot of my friends ask me, what is boudin? And they call it boudin. And I'm like, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. And they want to know, well, do you dip it in anything? Do you wrap it into a sandwich? No! When I warm up my boudin, I cut it right down the middle and I dip like dipping sauce with crackers. I like regular saltine premium crackers with my boudin, and to me that's a meal because the boudin is mixed with breads and rice and meats and green onions and sometimes pork, sometimes andouille sausage. It just depends on how they make their boudin. I love boudin, but I love egg roll boudin even more. It is something really, really, really delicious about an egg roll. I've made them here at the house, but when I make mine, let me tell you real quick how I make mine. So I get my egg roll wraps from HEB. That's the only place I've ever been able to find them, and I always have to go to the manager and ask where they are because they keep moving them around, just like my little minced garlic. They keep moving around. So when I do mine, I get that, and then I do my black beans. I do my avocado mashed up, of course, and then I do my wild rice. I put it in the egg roll and fry it. When I tell you, if if I don't have boudin, like I'll take the boudin and take all the stuffing out to make my egg rolls. But when I don't have boudin, I fix up, I can do rice and beans and avocado, whatever. But typically, I'll have the insides of a boudin with my avocado because I love avocado boudin egg rolls. I'll do mine like that and fry it, and I can eat about two of those, and then I'll save two for later and put them in the oven. But I really do love boudin. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, when am I going to Louisiana so I can stop through and get me some boudin? This is what I need to literally do. But that's my conversation on Louisiana today. I hope that there's something that maybe you learned new, because when I was doing my little research, there were about 5 things that I learned new. When it comes to the food, I already knew that. When it comes to the culture, I already knew that. When it comes to the language, I already knew that. When it comes to the things that you can do in the fun, I already knew that. But I didn't know it was the jazz capital of the world. I didn't know that it didn't become until 1812. I didn't know that it was owned by Spain in the 1700s. I didn't know that my great grandfather and great great grandmother's Indian tribe, the Catos, were migrated to that I didn't know. And when you can bring things home to me like that, and I can wrap it into a nice little bow, it's like, okay, questions have been answered. I'm good. I'll move to the next thing. But there's your little map right there of Louisiana. It's a pretty nice big state. It looks like a little boot that's coming apart under the bottom, kind of like Florida looks like a little long foot boot. But I hope that there's something that you've learned from today. Please make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you have the notification bell on. Please comment and like the shows. I love to see the likes and I love to see the comments. So if you're going to do me a favor, please do that for me. But all in all, make sure that not only you're subscribed, but when you share it with your friends and your loved ones, tell them to make sure they subscribe. That's my show today on great old Louisiana and all the cuisine that they have to offer. Talk to you later. Bye.
Hey, it's Miss Dawn. You wondering how you can support our show, Mother-Daughter-ish? We have Cash App, we have PayPal, and we do have Vimeo. Support our show so that we can reach out to more women. Our goal is to reach and build a community of 1 million women. Why don't you come on and help us do that?